China, spring of 2025. One of the most closed regimes of the modern era suddenly finds itself under the pressure of both internal and external upheavals. What until recently seemed unshakable is now beginning to crack. There is a growing sense that beneath the facade of monolithic power, a process of disintegration has begun, one that touches not only the party elites but also the very foundations of the regime's legitimacy. On April 22nd, the Supreme People's Procuratorate of China stunned the public. Li Gang, a high-ranking representative of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection of the Chinese Communist Party, was charged with serious offenses, ranging from accepting bribes to abuse of power. A figure whose role was to fight corruption has himself landed at the center of a major scandal. And this is not merely an isolated case, but quite possibly a symptom of a deeper political fever. According to the charges, Li Gang used his position within the party's personnel system to promote the interests of third parties, took part in opaque tenders, and facilitated the signing of lucrative contracts, for which he received large sums in cash and assets. In addition, he is accused of maintaining ties with so-called political swindlers, a specific term used by the CCP to describe intermediaries between the government and business sectors. This accusation is particularly sensitive, as it points to systemic connections at the very top of the party hierarchy. The very language of the indictment suggests that this is not just about corruption, but about a deeply entrenched scheme merging state power with private interests. Nothing like this has happened in China since the beginning of Xi Jinping's rule. Commentators immediately began to speak out. The case of Li Gang is not merely about fighting corruption. It is a signal that dissent is brewing within the party, that the very hand holding the knife, the disciplinary control system, is starting to cleanse itself of internal rot. This may be the beginning of a large-scale restructuring. It is not out of the question that the party has begun a deliberate self-purification to shed the burden of public mistrust and attempt to restore control amid rising discontent. Meanwhile, on April 18th, Zhang Jianchun, the former deputy head of the Central Propaganda Department, was brought to trial. His ties to Chen Shi, former head of the Central Organization Department, and to Xi Jinping's wife, Peng Liyuan, make his arrest especially symbolic. Even the inner circle of China's top leader is no longer safe. This fact indicates that the purge knows no bounds and could reach even the highest echelons of power. Tension is growing within the CCP, where each new day could reshape the entire configuration of governance. Analysts from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the United States unanimously state, this is a blow to the very center of power. If the confirmed connection between Zhang Jianchun and Peng Liyuan is evident, and Xi Jinping was unable to save him, then Xi's own political stability is now in question. The question arises, if even the allies of the First Lady are under attack, who can possibly feel safe under these conditions? But that's not all. In Chinese political culture, cases of this magnitude are not made public randomly. They are turned into messages, signals, both for the elite and for the people. The system is making it clear, no one is invulnerable. It is a reminder to all that in an authoritarian regime, protection is an illusion, and loyalty is no longer a safeguard against repression. During this same period, new information emerges. Miao Hua, the head of the Political Work Department of the Central Military Commission, is under scrutiny. He is accused of abuse of power in the appointment of officers. This kind of information directly strikes at Xi's military support. His sword bore the army and risks being decapitated. This means the entire system of loyalty within the People's Liberation Army could be re-evaluated, including the general corps and officer ranks. Experts predict, in the summer of 2025, the largest purge within the elite in decades will begin. Especially after the upcoming events, the Boao Forum and the fourth plenary session. These may serve as the trigger for radical change. Some sources indicate that during these meetings, there may be discussion about redistributing powers and limiting the authority of the head of state. This could lead to an unprecedented re-evaluation of Xi Jinping's role in the political system. At the same time, external political pressure is not weakening. The United States is intensifying its sanctions policy against Chinese telecommunications giants, China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. They are accused of cooperating with Chinese military entities and potentially leaking user data. The U.S. House Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party is resorting, for the first time in a long while, to issuing subpoenas, demanding accountability. This is a signal that Washington intends to push the issue to its conclusion, including blocking the remaining business operations of these companies in the United States. Washington is convinced this is not merely about technology, but about the infrastructure of future wars. Because if these companies have access to American data centers and cloud storage, they could control data flows, and therefore the entire digital infrastructure. In an era of total digitalization, such control becomes a weapon of the next generation, without bullets and tanks, but with comparable levels of destruction. Amid all these political storms, an outbreak of scarlet fever erupts in China. In the province of Guangdong alone, 1,542 cases were registered in March, an increase of more than 600 compared to February. The overwhelming majority of those infected are preschool-age children. The outbreak is causing widespread concern, especially in light of the absence of a vaccine. The situation is further complicated by the fact that China's health authorities systematically withhold full data, while regional agencies are downplaying the scale of what is happening. The epidemic may become an additional factor of social instability. In China, it is customary to conceal mass outbreaks, but this time, the information leaked online. This means the situation is out of control, both from a public health and media perspective. The population, tired of censorship and half-truths, is beginning to express discontent even in closed networks. A surge of discussion on Chinese forums and messengers is being tracked in real time, which in itself is a symptom of a deeper illness, mistrust of the authorities. Internally, the regime is trembling. Externally, more and more countries are turning away from Beijing. Xi Jinping's tour of Southeast Asia was seemingly meant to strengthen ties. But the reaction from Vietnam and Thailand was lukewarm. After his visit, Vietnam proposed joint measures with the United States to limit imports of Chinese goods, and Thailand tightened its controls on Chinese investments in land. This indicates that even traditionally loyal neighbors are beginning to reassess their policies. Following this, the wife of former Singaporean Prime Minister Ho Ching posted a satirical piece on the social platform X, comparing Xi to a crime boss threatening his neighbors. Such a jab is not merely symbolic. It is a manifesto of regional discontent. Even in elite circles, traditionally restrained in public statements, open criticism of Beijing is now emerging. This demonstrates how drastically the tone toward the People's Republic of China has changed, and how deep the fracture is in regional alliances. What comes next? For now, the picture looks like this. Xi Jinping is trying to consolidate power through an aggressive purge. But the mounting dissatisfaction both domestically and abroad is making his position increasingly precarious. The man who yesterday seemed all-powerful may today become the victim of the very system he built. Power based on fear is unstable, and any internal tremor can trigger an avalanche. Is a course correction looming, or is this just another act in an authoritarian drama? There are no answers yet, but one thing is clear. China has entered a phase of turbulence, where each step could prove fatal. All that remains is to watch how events will unfold in the coming weeks and months. Share your thoughts.